Hey, everybody, welcome to the Tony Rodriguez Show on the Next Gen USA. I'm here tonight with my buddy from the East Coast, Maryland, my brother Mikey. How are you, Mikey?
Hey, doing good, Frey.
And we cover a lot of ground that way.
Thank you.
Hey, I wanted to start off by talking about some of the nonsense that's going on with trying to remove Trump um, from office or from the ballot, actually. Um, let's talk briefly, and I'll tell you about California. Our somebody up in Sacramento decided or was pushing for that, and out of all people, Newsom is against it, which I found very shocking. Um, that
That's
Governor
kind of a
Newsom would be
surprise.
it's a big surprise, but a lot of things he's doing are surprising me, right? Like, I'm a little leery of his relationship with Hannity anymore. Hannity's bringing him on, letting him speak. Um, they had the debate that there was no reason for that debate. Him and DeSantis. So I think he's posturing. I think, in my opinion, um, to make a run.
Well, that's because Paul Ryan is the one of the board members of Fox,
Oh,
and
okay.
he don't like Trump. And he's a rhino.
So that okay, that makes a lot more sense. Is that why you think Hannity's supporting him?
He's. I don't think Hannity's really supporting him. I think he's just doing as he's told.
Oh,
Because
well,
that's one of the reasons they thought Tucker got bounced.
well, I'm sure that's why Tucker got bounced because he didn't want to play the game. I know that.
Right.
So there's also obviously today Maine announced that they're gonna take Trump off uh their primary ballot coming up. Um, I, I I have a hard time with this whole process, and I think you and I were speaking about this before we came on the air. When the 14th Amendment was enacted, it was really based on what was going on with the Confederate Army, right? The Confederate population,
Right.
and how we didn't want some people in office from the Confederacy. Um, how have they twisted it to this now? It is really strange to me. Um,
They're grasping at every straw they can find to keep Trump out of office because they know he'll do a better job and he'll make America great again.
well, and it's
Where the
funny,
Democrats on their ass with both hands.
it's crazy that I mean, as a society, we don't question the government as much as we should, right? Because I read the 14th Amendment and I couldn't. I mean, I know how they kind of wiggled around, kind of like tax laws, right? They know how to wiggle around them to
Right.
surpass them, but it's kind of cut and dry when it talks about what's considered an insurrection and why the 14th Amendment was enacted. Um, we,
Right.
we should
And they never
question the
mentioned the
government.
president. And they never mentioned the president in the 14th Amendment.
No, no, they did not. And I had to be honest, I had to read it because I wasn't sure. I didn't want to assume anything, so I had to reread that amendment.
Right.
Um, but it just they continue to stir the pot, right, in our country, right? Instead of trying to focus on issues, we just keep stirring the pot. Again, elections are coming. We know that. We understand that. Um, we're not really thinking about what we can do better as a country. We keep talking about how the economy is better, how we tell people that we have more people working now than we did 3 years ago. Well, of course, we had COVID, so people weren't working, but they don't bring that out, right? Um,
Exactly.
they and I know
Oh, how
people are
gas
smart enough to know that.
prices have went down.
Well, that's
Gas
because he's
prices say,
draining
"Oh, gas
our
prices are coming down." We reserve.
right. That's what I was going to
It's
say.
probably
We're
empty.
draining our
I could
reserves.
probably fill up a Coke cup with that. Matter of fact,
We're
I
draining
think
our
this is our
reserves now.
petroleum reserve.
Yeah. It's just sad that this is the path that we're heading, right? Kind of like nitpicking at little things and not really worried about the big issues, right? We have homeless issues, right? But we address it with just throwing money at it. We don't try to fix anything. We just try to keep throwing money out and hope that people just vote for me because I'm a D or I'm an R instead
Right.
of voting for the right person. And I'll tell you one thing I've learned during this campaign that I'm in is it's just there's so much division everywhere. It doesn't matter um, what party. There's division within the parties, and there's arguing and
Oh,
bickering,
yeah.
and then we lose focus on what's important, which is the American people, or in my
Right.
case, the California people. We lose touch with that. Um, and I don't get it. If you're running to truly serve, then we should all be on the same sheet, right? This is what we're going to focus on. These are our priorities for the party, not for individual candidates, for the party. And then the candidates run with that campaign instead of being all over the place, right? Because that's really where we're at, right?
Right.
Um, and we have some Republicans that are rhinos, and then we have some Republicans that aren't rhinos, and they continue to bump heads. And you know, I'm telling you, I sat in meetings and I'm like, is this really the same party? Because it's just nothing but bickering and arguing back and forth about which path to take. And to me, it's pretty simple, right? We take the path um, that's righteous and it does the right thing for the American people. That's it. It's kind of
It's
simple. It does
it's for the
shouldn't be
people.
it shouldn't be an argument about uh, give you a great example in California. Abortion is in our Constitution. We can argue all day about that issue. We can't change it,
It ain't going nowhere. Right.
right? We can't change what's in the Constitution until we elect people so that we have more Republicans involved. And then you can go ahead and try to change the Constitution. But at the end of the day, it's up to the people of California to change it at some point.
Exactly.
Uh, So we argue about things that we have no control over at this point. I can't control that. Doesn't matter how I feel about the issue on a personal level. Doesn't matter, right? And
Yeah.
I've said
And
this before. Go ahead.
it's funny because even out here, we have got a county executive who wants to run for the U.S. Senate. And in articles I've been reading, just to clarify, she's talking about not defunding the police, but furloughing them. So now there's even less people on the street for the sheriffs, for the fire department, because she mismanaged the budget, and the budget is like $180 billion going to be in debt, and by the year 2030, it'll be 300 billion.
Hey, hi, Willie. Welcome, Steamboat.
Reporting for
Steamboat
duty.
Willie
Hey, sir, how
from
are
the
you?
North Pole.
The force is with me.
Yes, it
Good
is.
thing.
We'll call you Baby Yoda.
Oh, there we go.
Baby Yoda.
We were talking about some of the nonsense that's happening in Maine. For example, they the Attorney General of the state decided to take Trump off the ballot today. Um,
I think it was actually
yesterday,
the Secretary of State.
Secretary of State, okay, and then
Right.
yesterday, Colorado said, okay, Trump can be on the ballot. So this going back and forth nonsense.
Yeah, well, they don't know what they're doing, and as far as American jurisprudence is concerned, yeah, they have no reason to take him off the ballot. He has not been charged nor convicted of anything close to insurrection. So they're
Well,
playing politics.
and isn't there Governor Sununu in Maine?
Yes.
So he's a Republican.
New Hampshire.
It's New Hampshire.
Okay, that's New
Yeah.
Okay, that's why. Okay.
So I mean,
Yeah.
and really all they're doing is solidifying the base even more for Trump.
Yeah.
Right? They're not. People are just people get tired of you attacking constantly attacking somebody with no evidence. I mean, it's pretty
Well,
obvious.
Right.
right.
Go ahead, Rob.
And you know, Sununu is already running commercials in New Hampshire for Nikki Haley. So this is politics in high gear.
Well, I mean, and Nikki Haley obviously is not the brightest cookie in the jar, right? Her little faux pas the other night is biting her in the ass right now. Um,
Yeah.
You know, to talk about the Civil War and not talk about slavery was a big mistake on her part.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know who is giving her advice, but whoever was threw her under that bus during that event.
Well, I'll tell you, guys. I think the smartest guy on the debate stage at this point is Ramaswamy. Not that he's presidential material yet,
No.
but he's being so loyal to Trump at this point. He's definitely going to have a place in a new Trump administration if that comes to pass.
He's definitely going to have a cabinet position.
Yeah.
And he's taking his
And that's
name
basically
off for running TV in Iowa and New Hampshire with his money a little bit.
you know, when you look at the Republican field and you look at the debate stage of the past, they're all running for something else other than the presidency. Maybe not DeSantis, because you can't alienate yourself from Trump that way and expect to serve in a Trump administration. So this is unprecedented. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, this is unprecedented in American politics, what we're seeing this year. And it's full of chaos on both sides of the aisle. The Republicans are still divided. Democrats are just as divided, if not more in some ways.
Yep.
And you know, that's why in 2000, we're only days away from the new year. The election really begins January 2nd, the campaign for 2024. And there's only one Republican I'm really, really concerned about, and that I'm focused on, and that is Tony Rodriguez. And you can learn more about Tony by visiting tonyforcalifornia.us. And every dollar helps, folks. And I don't know who would take. I don't know who's in charge of your. I don't know who's in charge of your social media graphics lately, but man, oh man, I'd like to meet him and give him a pat on the back.
I can't wait to see him. Me too, myself. Waiting for that green light.
That's right.
You know, and it's funny you mentioned the division within the Republican Party, because even at my level, I see it.
Yeah, I'm right in the flight path, literally in the flight path to LAX. And all I hope is those guys literally flying over this building. I for sure hope they're not drinking.
When you were talking about the division, yeah. When you were talking about the division of the party, I have the privilege of seeing it personal at many meetings, which is kind of sad that we're at. And I watch it, and I feel like I'm back in junior high school with people arguing about, you know, things that aren't really important.
Exactly.
I give David Hernandez credit because he's trying to unify the party and try to focus on certain issues that we can all agree on. But some of the other people in the party, they're not. I don't want to say they don't want to play ball, but they don't want to sit down and have an adult conversation about which direction to take, which is kind of sad.
No, you're absolutely correct, and when you're just looking at this presidential race, not even statewide races or anything, just the presidential race, there's a contingent of the Republican old guard that wants to assume control once again, whether through the Christian right or whatever. They want the politics of the past. Everything politically, rule-wise, has changed in this generation. It is not the politics. The Republican Party is a whole new party. It's more populist. I don't think it's been this populist since Ronald Reagan. And while Donald Trump is no Ronald Reagan, he has the ear of a contingency in this party. He's carved out his way, and I don't see any path forward for anybody challenging Trump for the nomination. And that's just the reality. Whether you like Trump or you don't is not the question here. The question is, where is the Republican Party today? And it's being redefined as we speak.
Right. You know, it's amazing that we are where we are today, knowing the path we've been going through through this presidency of Biden, and yet we still can't come together to fight the battle for the American people.
Absolutely true.
Which,
even
I've met a lot of
soldiers.
Yeah, I mean,
our soldiers are getting attacked, and we should be responding with force to the opposition party that's going towards us. How many bases have been rocketed, and we want to shoot down drones?
But you know that, Mike, it's not that they don't put that on CNN or Fox or nothing, right? Because they don't want people to know. So unless you're researching, you don't know what's happening out there. You just don't know. And people don't know that we're getting attacked daily. People don't know that the civilian ships are being attacked by by the Iranian people, the Iranian army. So,
right.
Well, and you brought up a great point, Tony. And look, anybody that did not see this coming, with Iran funding Hamas and Hezbollah and so forth, anybody that didn't see this coming either wasn't paying attention or they're a foreign policy idiot. Because even back in 2007, I was calling for airstrikes on Iran, and in 2011, Mike Riker and I both said the only way to deal with Iran is militarily. That's all they understand. And
when we sent a missile through Gaddafi's window, all of a sudden, whoop, he calmed down. You just need to. We know where their oil fields are from satellites. Just send a nice Tomahawk over there.
I guess what bothers. No, you're absolutely right. A few Tomahawk missiles and some drones, but the point is, the current administration is turning a blind eye. They're literally pressuring Israel to fight a kinder, gentler war with Hamas.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. It cannot be done. No, it's.
If we did that with Hitler, we'd all be goose stepping now.
Yeah, but we've seen this administration time and time again say we stand strong with Israel. We have Israel's back at all costs, and yet turn around and try to negotiate a ceasefire, try to negotiate a kinder, gentler war against Hamas. Can't be done. It doesn't work. It's a formula for foreign policy disaster.
And they're still launching missiles to Israel.
That's right. At this very hour. You're absolutely right, Mike.
Right.
There's so much going on that people don't know where to focus. You have all these schools pro-Hamas or pro-Palestine, and everybody's against, the Jewish community. I don't know why people don't understand that a terrorist is a terrorist. Plain and simple, right?
Exactly.
And whether it's somebody in the U.S. blowing crap up or somebody, they're still terrorists. and we need to treat them like the bad people they are. I don't understand why.
There's no other way to do that. I mean, there just isn't. I'm sorry. I know the American people are tired of war. I mean, that's a fact. We're still getting over the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, for God's sake. This is not the way we should have pulled out of Afghanistan. I will say though, on one level, I think we could have avoided going there in the first place. But we were there, and our withdrawal literally made us look weak. And once again, we should have learned from the Soviets. Yeah, we should have learned from the Soviets back in the 1980s, for God's sake. That when the Soviets occupied Afghanistan, you cannot beat 10 years, and we were there upwards of 20.
Yeah.
So the fact is, we didn't learn from history in this case, and all that happened in Afghanistan is that the Taliban and terrorist organizations have safe haven, and now we see the Middle East being destabilized. But gentlemen, that's my commentary for the night. I have to run to another undisclosed location.
Have fun,
But as we speak, social media is being blasted with new Tony Rodriguez sign sightings. So and Mike Riker, I know, picks up the ball, and Mike is from Maryland, ladies and gentlemen, but he's campaigning hard here in California for Tony Rodriguez. Anyway, love you guys. I'm going to say this on.
Tag me on Instagram too.
Okay.
On Instagram.
Okay, and I just want to say to our one missing brother, Al. Look, Al feels like because he can't make it every time that he shouldn't be a part of the crew. I told him that's nonsense. He's a part of the crew. He's stuck with us, and when he shows up, when he doesn't show up, we know he's on a job or something. So he'll be back soon. Al Collins, you're not. Love you guys. Stay strong, and let's get ready for this campaign cycle. 2020.
That's right.
Tony Rodriguez. Good night, gentlemen.
Good to see him.
Right. Yep.
Hey, it's always good to see him. He seems a lot more chipper, so I'm happy.
Oh yeah.
He's more
He
chipper.
said I get stuff from him every day that I steal and add to the reels on Instagram and stuff like that. And
yeah.
I asked him, I said, where are you getting this stuff? This is great.
I know, that's what I say. That's why I said tag me on Instagram.
Yeah, you got your own airplane. I mean, it's beautiful.
Tag me.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about and I don't know if you heard this in Maryland or not, but Pizza Hut is laying off about 2,000 people.
Who's that?
Delivery drivers.
Of what company?
Pizza Hut.
Oh, and we're just opening up our Pizza Huts out here.
And the reason why they're saying they're laying off 2,000 people is because of the minimum wage that's going up in February to $20 an hour in California.
Oh, ours is going to 15 January.
So they're not going to be able to afford the drivers and company benefits at $20 an hour. And I wanted to touch a little bit on that because I want to remind people that are going to say, well, why don't you want minimum wage to go up? Well, it's not that I don't, but when you do it to a small business, a $20 an hour person doesn't cost that business owner $20 an hour, right?
Right.
In California, it's going to cost you $20 an hour plus whatever percentage the workers' comp cost is, right? So let's say it's a 10%. It's not, California is only anywhere from 15 to 20% workers' comp. So think about that. Add another 20% to that $20 an hour. Now you're paying that 20% plus unemployment, plus FDIC to the federal government, right? The employer has to pay. So a $20 guy or girl is going to cost you $25, $26 an hour, right? Plus company
And of
benefits
course, it gets
included,
passed on to the consumer.
right? And what they did is,
Your $10 pizza is now 20.
right. Well, McDonald's is a prime example, right? With everything that's happening.
Exactly.
You used to get
Yeah.
a two cheeseburger combo for $6.89 in California. Now it costs $10 in
Yeah.
less than a year. In less than a year. So imagine when we go to $20 an hour, what it's going to cost, right? It's going to be more. But I think people forget there's costs with somebody like Amazon or Apple. It doesn't affect them because they're big companies, right? But when you talk about a small mom and pop
But
operation, it
yep.
affects them tremendously, right? And they're not going to be able to hire three waiters or three people to help them. They might be able to do one, and still going to have to raise the prices because they got to pay that one more to come to work every day, and more benefits. So, I
And
think
then you
sometimes
got
we
the
get carried
overhead
away.
for their business.
Yeah. I mean,
You get the overhead from their business, which got taxed, and that goes up. So that means they got to make more to play catch up.
and people don't understand it is the effect. So the local Taco Bell here, you can't order on the counter anymore. You got to go through the machine to order, right? Um,
Right.
and then somebody brings you your food out. So there's no more two or three people working the cash register anymore, right? They
Right.
have one person. They have maybe three people working instead of six, and three people are putting the food together and then bringing it to the counter, and one's working the drive-through. So, yeah,
Right.
it's great for the three people that are working, but what about the other three people that aren't working? Right? What about them? Right?
Exactly.
It's not great for them because we're not
I
thinking
mean, I've
about
seen the
how it
kiosks.
affects everybody.
I mean,
Eh,
McDonald's has got one person working the counters, and then you've got the kiosks that are inside where you can go and order on there yourself. And then they ask you for, and I'm like, oh, look at this crap.
it's amazing what's really happening, and they, they've ruined the economy because I get things are expensive. I totally understand that, right? But that's because everything that's happened. I go back to that loaf of bread that day I bought it, I think 4 weeks ago, and it was $5.49 for a loaf of bread. I was like, what the hell? Right? Bread shouldn't cost that much. It should not. Right. But it does
No,
in some parts of California, it does. Um, yeah, gas is dropping prices, but the price already went up.
you,
They're not going to drop the price now at this
yeah,
point. They're going to keep it where it's at.
ours went to ours went from like 309, now it's up to like 315 in there. But I've actually, what I do is I find places that give you rewards. Like if I
Right.
go to a 7-Eleven gas station and you put in your phone number, I got it for like 389 today. And it
That's a
went
good
from
price.
I saved 7 cents off of that. But you got to hunt and peck to find
Right.
these things.
And it becomes a burden to people because they work all day. They don't really, a lot of times, don't have time to go anywhere but to the regular market, and they don't have time to go shopping around. But it's part of the
Right.
education process, right? We need to make sure that people start to understand why things happen to us. A lot of it is we don't know, we don't have the information until it's too late, or people are price gouging. There was a yogurt that my wife used to buy. It used to be 179 for one, and I won't name the brand, but 179 for one. And if you bought two, it was $3, right? Now, if you buy two, it's $6. And this is about 3 months ago. So in 3 months, it went from $3 to $6, double in price, right? To buy two of them.
Yeah.
That hurts
And a
all
lot
of
of it
us,
goes
right?
back to
It hurts
energy.
all of us,
You know,
right?
the energy prices go up, and so does the diesel prices for the truck drivers, who then have to pass it on to the consumer. And I mean, any high school senior could go into the White House and say, "Hey, why don't we do this?" And they'd have it fixed or under control. But what we got in the White House now is just a bunch of, I don't know what they're calling them now, Gen Zs or Alphas or whatever they are. Don't
I,
have a clue.
I have no idea what we have up there. Um, Now, the mayor of New York, Chicago, and I forget what other, oh, I think it was Denver, had a conference call to talk about the illegal immigration issue, and they're reaching out to Biden for help, right? And these are blue states, right, that are reaching out for help
Yeah.
because people are just coming in droves now, coming in droves.
And and now the
Now,
DOJ wants to try to sue Texas
yeah,
because
that's all I was going to
Texas,
bring up.
it,
That was my hope. Yeah.
I think as
Now they're going
you know,
after the
I
governor
think as of
for illegal
it's
immigration.
March. Yeah, and they're saying, look, you guys aren't doing anything. Come March, we're going to start deporting these people. And since they did their law and they enacted it, they've got 10,000 people in their jails because of their new law, and they're going to end up deporting these people. Bravo to Greg Abbott.
No, and I give them props because we need to manage the border, whether it's the northern or the southern border. We have to manage our borders. Everybody else does.
Right?
I mean, I don't understand why it's a bad thing that we do. Everybody else does that. Just amazing how
Yeah, I think you were just free.
we politicize everything, right? And
Everything, but they're
we
not.
don't do the right thing.
I mean, they keep saying, "Oh yeah," and then they take a trip to Mexico, and Mexico has they have a little powwow, and what do we get out of it? Zero. The plan is they're like, "Hey, we're going to cut the money we're funding you," and like Trump did, unless this happens. The art of the deal.
They need to do. I mean, I don't. Again, maybe I'm missing the boat, but I don't understand what is wrong with enforcing laws. What is wrong with having people go through a process to come into our country? If I want to join the military, I have to go through a process, right? If
Yep.
I don't meet certain gates, I can't join. Period, right?
Right.
And it's okay for the government to do that to me, but for people to come from another country, we can't do that. We can't make them meet certain gates. We can't force them to pass certain things before we allow them to come in here legally, right? Which to me makes no sense at all. So we have certain
Right.
rules that we enforce, but we don't want to enforce them on other people, which is wrong, in my
No,
opinion.
definitely. Rules for thee, but not for me.
Yeah. And it's funny. One thing I've learned during this campaign is I got emails from the LA Times, which I know that they'll never endorse me, and the Hispanic paper La Opinion, right? And they ask me certain questions where I stand on certain issues, and this is how skewed the system is, right? With all the problems we have in our country, their concerns were, what am I going to do specifically for the Hispanic community? Um, what my stance is on immigration, right? And I know they didn't like my answers because they never call me back, so I totally understand, right? Um, but
Yeah, they're baiting you.
we have public safety issues that we need to worry about right now. We have economic
Right.
issues that we need to worry about right now. We have issues in our schools we need to worry about now. I think that's more important than what I'm going to do for a specific community, right? That's
Exactly.
just
Right.
me, right? My district is very mixed. We have Hispanics, we have mainly Armenians, um, but this is where we're at today, where you have these organizations that if you don't bow down to what they want you to do, they don't support the common sense approach, right? They want to kind of,
Right.
it's got to be black and white, right? And I don't agree with that. We live in a country full of immigrants, right? I think I'm pretty sure the Constitution says everyone. Last time I looked, it doesn't say
Yeah.
a particular group, right? So
Well, I'm even hearing that the Armenians are getting ready to possibly go to war with let me try to say this, Azerbaijan.
right,
And so they've
it's been
got issues on that side of the world.
it's been heating up for a few months lately, but it's been an ongoing issue for a long time. Um,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't surprise me, right? Because at some point, people get tired of being pushed around. Um, that's why I find it
Yeah.
difficult that in our country, people just keep allowing elected officials to make decisions for us without talking to us or without explaining why they're making that decision.
Yeah.
And yet they
It's
support
just,
candidates. Senator Weiner, he's a prime example of a perv, right? How he keeps getting elected, reelected, I'm at a loss for words. Any policy that comes out of his head has to do with influencing children and education and in a negative fashion, not positive. Um,
oh, yeah.
but yet we keep electing him. And this guy has aspirations to be governor someday, right? I can't
Is
even
this Anthony
imagine.
Weiner?
Yep. No, not Anthony.
Okay.
No, it's
Just a
I think
bunch
it's
of
Scott
another
Wiener.
Weiner.
I think it's Scott Wiener
Okay.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. They lose focus on everything. They look at politics over people, not people over politics.
Yeah. And and I wish people would, and I'm hoping that people are seeing the light though and paying attention to what's happening out here, and giving somebody else an opportunity to be on the front lines with them and fight part of this nonsense that's continuing to happen. Because if we don't, at some point, we're going to lose the republic if we allow this to continue the way it is, and then it's going to be too late, and then people are going to
Right.
be upset. Well, this is not what I asked for. Well, they told you exactly what they were going to do, and you still voted for them, um, which is really mind boggling to me.
Have you guys heard of any who's going to run for McCarthy's seat?
No, I have not.
I've kind of heard Devin Nunes might try to get in there.
Oh, he's back.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's got his head on straight. If I was living there, I'd say go for it.
You want to hear a funny story? As unbelievable as this might seem, Steve Garvey is second to Adam Schiff.
I did hear that.
I am amazed at that. Out of nowhere, he came up,
That's
and now he's right behind Adam Schiff. Went by Katie Porter.
yeah, yeah. I heard that too, and I was like, what? Because I thought he'd be lower, but he's not. And all these other people that look at Adam now and go, they start hearing, oh, his primary house is in Maryland. What's he doing for us?
Yeah,
Steve at least might be out there and say, well, look, I can help you.
yeah. I mean, he can. The weird part is that Eric Early, who's running for the same position, was ahead of a lot of people in the beginning, and he's just falling by the wayside, um, which is strange to me because this is, I think, his fourth go around, whether it's Congress or Senate or third go around, and he's just falling behind further and further now. He's not even in
You don't
third
have a,
place.
you don't even have a good platform. It sounds like.
I and I don't see. I have not heard if he's being endorsed by the Republican Party this time around, so I don't know. Um, but I'm curious to find out if they're going to endorse him or they're going to endorse Steve Garvey. Um, at this point, because there was a lot of hoopla about Steve Garvey not speaking well, and
Not being
initially
as
when he
well
first
funded.
announced it, yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, and worried about things that they would attack Steve Garvey on, like his personal life, and I'm over all that. I think at some point we need to grow up and not worry about what somebody did in the past. If they've turn the corner, then let's give them an opportunity like we do convicts, right? I
Yeah.
mean, just because you've been divorced 3 or 4 times doesn't make you a bad person.
No, I know
You
that.
people get caught up on dumb things as far as I'm concerned, right? Kind of like, I had this argument with somebody the other day over abortion, and she's arguing with me about, well, we can't support somebody like you because blah. I said, well, I don't agree with abortion. That's not the point. The point is I can't fix it, right? I can't.
Right,
You can elect me and I can pound on the head of people that abortion is wrong, but it's in the Constitution of California. So if you want me to
right,
fix it, you need to elect more Republicans to office in California, because that's the only
right,
way. That's the only way. And people are naive, kind of like term limits. I use that a lot. People, any politician that guarantees term limits is lying to you. You can't do it.
right.
It takes 36 states. 36 states. Imagine that. 36 out of 50
To
just to
ratify.
get it on the ballot.
Yep.
All right. So are we going to get 36 states to agree to that? No.
Right. We can't
Right.
get them to agree on anything.
So you might get 25 states to agree, and that's about it. Maybe 30, but not 36 at this point, because you've got to have a change in leadership to affect change. If you
Right,
people, if you want to change certain things, you got to vote for the right person, not the right party, the right person.
right,
Somebody who tells you the truth. I can't change the abortion law in California. I'm not going to lie about it. I can't do it. What I can do is give people the opportunity of another option on abortion, but I can't change the Constitution. And if they decide they want to have an abortion, I can't stop that. Can't stop that.
right, right. I mean,
So
that's the state's right, and if your state says yes, it's fine. Okay. If Iowa says no, well,
right.
you cross the border and you go from one state to another state.
Yep. And
You know,
that's the reality of the business. And I think sometimes people get caught up with, well, we elected you and you said you can change it. Well, the only way to change it is you have to elect more people that have that same mindset. That's it.
well, and
That's it.
that's what I see a lot of the politicians doing with term limits. They
Yep.
keep saying, "Oh yeah, we're all signing this thing that we want term limits." Well, that piece of paper don't. That's as good as toilet paper
Yep.
because it's got to be done through all the other states on a ratification.
You're right. And and I think that's part of the process that people don't understand. And they want to believe politicians or whoever's running for office. Well, he said he's going to
Right,
do this, or she said she's going to do this. There's some things we can't do. It's just not that easy. One thing we can do is elect people that have the same frame of mind and same thought process so that we can make changes, right? That's cut and dry, right? That's how it should be. Do I believe
yeah,
in that personally? Hell no, I don't believe in that personally. I don't believe in abortion personally. That's just my opinion. But that's my opinion. That's not what I can do.
and if you
What I
notice
can do is
all the people that are coming out say, "Well, I want to do this and I want to do that." Well, tell me, how are you going to do that? What are you going to do to get to the solution? And you never hear solutions. You always hear, "I have a plan." What's your plan?
well, and if you say that, right? If you say that that's part of your platform and your plan, then your plan should be, I'm going to recruit more candidates just like me that believe like I do so that we can affect change, because I need a team behind me of people that think alike to change the Constitution. And even if
Exactly.
we all think alike, it's still going to the voters, right? So the
Right.
California voters have to decide at the end of the day what they want, right?
Right.
Will they change the Constitution? Hard to tell, right? I'm not a mind reader, and I can't see the future. Um, but what we can do is affect change on the things that are wrong now, right?
Right.
We can take care of our kids by fixing the school issues. We can take care of the public safety issue by supporting law enforcement. Those are things we can do, right? We can push to get away from this, electric nonsense that they're pushing from Washington, right?
Oh
do away
yeah.
with all the appliances and everything electric. Well, that's a great plan. I don't disagree with it at all. But I do disagree with the implementation of the plan. Right? We
Yeah, of a
can't
mandate.
implement anything like that at this point.
Yeah,
Um,
why mandate? I mean, we're a country of freedom of choice. So I mean, look at the vice president when she was cooking dinner on a gas stove, and that picture came out, and it's like,
yeah,
okay, well, if this is so popular, why do you still have a gas stove in your vice presidential residence? Where's your electric one?
I it's all nonsense. It's some of the candidates that I'm running against. Their big push is you know electric energy, right? Battery operated stuff, and how we're going to make California clean and better than ever. Blah blah blah. Um, Not many talk about the actual issues, which to me is incredible. Even if you don't believe in the issues, or you don't want to address, I would make it part of the campaign. Yeah, I'm going to help you get parental rights in school, and I'm going to do that. You're already lying anyway, so might as well keep the lie going. I don't think I don't think that doing away with fossil fuels solves our problems at all. Right?
Not at all.
I, I'm not. I don't believe in the climate nonsense they're pushing. Um,
Right.
I don't believe that. I know there's a lot more people and there's a lot more things that go into the air, but I don't think it's making the earth hotter than it's ever been. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it goes well, like 1 degree every 100 years or something.
and
You
and I
know.
think it's a natural effect from where we
Sure.
are, right? We're near the sun, number one. So whatever happens there, we get residue from that. So eh, we get caught up on things that to me we don't prioritize, like you probably do in your home and I do, right? Okay, these are our priorities, honey. This is what we need to do first before we can go
Right.
on this wonderful vacation, right? We got to make sure we hit these gates before we can spend the other money to go do something fun. Um, so I think, anytime I hear anybody talking that's running for political office and they start rambling about things that they're going to change, I'm turned off, right? Because I want them to be more honest and say, this is what I'm going to try to do, and this is my plan to address it, but I need help, right? I can't do it alone, right? I mean, in the assembly, we're outnumbered by 37 people. In order to
Wow.
get anything passed, we need at least 20 to 25 Republicans to get nominated for the assembly to win,
Oh
just
yeah.
to have a fighting chance on passing bills, right? Just to have a chance to fight bills, right? And instead of, let's work together. And I brought up David Hernandez because he's doing a good job putting a team together with a specific focus for their campaigns. Not I want to do this, he wants to do that. A specific focus for about, I think there's about 10 to 15 candidates, um, from congressional to city council to assembly to Senate, to specifically focus on certain things that we all agree on, right? Which is the way it should be, right? So the message doesn't get lost. So the message is the same for everybody. Hey, we
Sure.
care about public safety. Hey, we care about what's going on in our schools, right? And we understand that school choice is not the answer, but it's a band-aid until we figure out how to fix the school system, the public school system, right? Um, we need special, you know, public education is never going away. We know that. So, but we have
Right.
to fix it. Right? We have to fix it. So, but we can put a band-aid on it until we fix it and figure out where the problem is. Is it the unions enforcing stupid rules to the teachers, right? Is that the problem? Or is it just an inherent problem because the people teaching today have these beliefs that they want to pass on to other people's children? Right? Is that
Right.
the issue, right? Why are they not focusing on teaching the basics, math, English, science, history, civics? Why aren't we doing those things? Why isn't that a priority? Where did the wheel come off? That's really the question. And then can we put the wheel back on and fix it so we don't have the continual issue that we do in our schools right now.
Yeah, the high school I went to had vocational programs. And if I understand they're going to have one in the north and one in the south, which is the school I went to. If you add those in there in their senior years or whatever, you can accomplish so much because like me, when I got out of high school, I said, no, I don't want to go to college. And I worked in my trade, which was printing, and I went to a shop. And when I was in school, I had printing for 3 periods a day. I got paid by the employer, and I got a grade. So, you add those in there, and they had cosmetology, nursing, carpentry, auto mechanics, drafting, printing. Geez, I don't even know what the heck was down at the end of the hall, but they had so many different things that, when these kids got out, they could say, hey, I'd like to help build homes. And they could go out from the carpentry shop and do it. And
Yeah.
you have the trade that you're going to keep forever.
You know, and it's funny, when I went to school, I had wood shop.
Right.
That was what I enjoyed doing when I was a kid. But we got away from all that, right? We just slowly society moved away because if you didn't have a 4-year degree, you weren't going to get a good job, blah, 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 blah. And now we have
Yeah.
a shortage
Competition.
of electricians. We have a shortage of
Right.
HVAC technicians throughout the country. We have a shortage of carpenters, good carpenters, right?
Yep.
So the skilled people that we need to build things, they're not available, right? You
Right.
try to find a good electrician in the state of Washington, unless you can pay $70 an hour, you're not going to find one. They're hard to find.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it drives the cost of businesses. It leads companies to, instead of hiring their own people, they go ahead and go through a staffing company and hire them through there because they can't afford it, right? So you don't have somebody working for a company
Yep.
20, 30 years anymore
Yep.
because it's just difficult. And I don't know how Maryland is, but in California, there's a big shortage of electricians, carpenters, HVAC techs, um,
Well, it's kind
obviously
of
police
ironic.
officers also.
I had a guy come to my house today to install a new dishwasher, and the kid that helped him with taking the dishwasher off the truck, he was, helping put it in. And I asked him, I says, are you doing this as an apprentice? The guy said, no, I'm in 8th grade. This is my father, and I'm helping him out on my winter break. So I said, well, you're learning something too. So you'll have a skill that you've done before.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good.
I don't know why people think that you got to have a college education to have a good paying job or a good skill set.
Right.
I mean, education is important, don't get me wrong, but it's not the end all be all.
Yeah.
I went to college for 1 year and I dropped out and joined the army. Right. Now,
Right.
I went back eventually, but initially it wasn't what I wanted to do.
And that's what I
And
did. Yeah.
I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Um, I was a young kid, 19 years old, very
Yeah.
confused about life in general. Right.
I did public service. I went when I was 16. I joined the fire department as a volunteer, and I went up there, got my emergency medical technician certification. 17, I was delivering babies. I was at airplane crashes. I was at everything, just about everything you can name. I was probably there. A train accident, and I learned from it, and I kept a lot of the medical knowledge that I gained from it. And you can build on that if you want to.
Yeah, you can. And I wanted to talk to you something specifically about law enforcement and just your perspective on it. So we had a deputy chief in my area um, that got reassigned to be head of the detectives. Right.
Okay.
He is a problem. He was a problem in our area. But instead of dealing with the problem, we transferred him to another division.
Huh.
And I don't know if that happens, in all law enforcement agencies, but I
I think
think
so.
it does, because I find that,
Yeah.
kind of stupid, right? So you take one problem from one area and you move them to another area to screw that area up too, instead of taking some action to kind of, I'm not going to transfer you, but I'm going to train you and coach you and mentor you and try to fix your nonsense right here before I send you somewhere else.
Right.
And I don't understand why we don't do that.
Yeah, a lot of places they do that even with the patrol guys. They'll say, this guy was used excessive force in this neighborhood. Uh, say Compton and Watts for example down in the area.
Right.
He used excessive force here. We're going to move him somewhere or put him on a telephone reporting unit, and that really doesn't help the situation. But they just shuffle them around. They make them live farther away from their homes, so they have to travel a lot longer to get there, and that happens all the time.
And I think that's the problem with everything that in society, right? We kind of keep shoving things away and hoping they go away when they're not going to go away. Kind of like, and it leads me to the homeless issue, right? We keep pouring money into that issue, but we don't address the real issue, right? Whether it's mental health, whether it's drug use, kind of like jails, right? We put people in jail and and we don't do anything about it, right? One thing I do agree with John Hatami is, who's running for DA, and he's a Democrat, but I like him. He's running for DA in LA, and he definitely believes in more jails, more
I
professional
believe
jails,
that
not
too.
professional jails, right? He wants drug addicts to be treated in jail. He wants mental health to be handled at the jail before anybody gets released, instead of
I think
you go
that's
to
fine.
jail, you pump iron, and then you get out, right? Um,
Right,
and then you commit a crime again, because we never really address the reason why you're committing crimes. Is it drugs? Is it mental health? And if you're just a criminal, then okay, you're just a criminal. But a lot of them have mental issues and a lot of them have drug issues. And that's what leads to crime, right? They need
right,
drugs.
right.
So they
Yeah,
rob, they steal, right? They have mental health issues. So they do stupid stuff. But we don't address those issues. We just put them in jail and let them go, right?
and I
Specifically in
always
LA
looked
County,
at the
not
drug
everybody.
issues. I always used to look at the drug issues like a wagon wheel, and you got in the center of the wheel, you got your drug issues where the addict wants his stuff, and the little spokes that come off the wheel are for doing robberies or burglaries or homicides or whatever else. They all kind of branch off, but it all comes from that one hub in the middle.
Right.
So if you get those taken care of, you can hopefully take care of other ones.
Right. And I'm all for that. I think bigger jails, more facilities, right? If we're going to spend the money, then let's stop
Right?
wasting it. Let's do it intelligently, right? It's like homeless. If we know somebody's homeless and it's because of a drug issue, then giving them a place to stay doesn't solve the problem. Let's go ahead and move them into a drug facility to get them cleaned up and then release them, right? Then maybe he'll stay where we send him, right? Maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know. But at least
Yeah.
it's a different approach than what we're doing now, where we just lock
Right.
people up and then let them out, without
You know,
any
you,
kind of
you
support.
you put them with they're in the jails, they can get educational programs to kind of help them out. I mean, I knew one guy, I didn't personally know him, but he went into the jail for 20 years or whatever. After his 20 years, he came out, he had a law degree.
Well, and
I
again,
mean,
th- that happens a lot, at least in California. I know it does. When they get training, they become welders and carpenters. But
exactly.
we don't address the real issue why they're in jail, right? If you're a drug addict, then let's address that issue before we train you as a carpenter or a welder. Right? Let's address that issue first, and then move on to the next issue. And I think that's what we lack, because we don't, kind of like what happened here with the deputy chief. We don't address what the things he was doing wrong. We just move
Right.
him somewhere else and hope that it gets better, right? Hope and pray it gets better. So that's my 2 cents, Mikey. Well, we're at the top of the
Yeah,
hour, Mike. So I
we
want to
are.
thank you for being on the show tonight.
What's that?
Thank you for being on the show tonight.
Thank you.
No, thank you, sir. I couldn't do this without you. I
And
want to thank the
we
audience for
keep it.
being in tonight to watch the Tony Rodriguez show and the Next Gen USA. I definitely want you to follow me. Go to my website, Tony the number 4 California.us. It's time to make a difference. Check it out. If you can donate, donate. If you can volunteer for the campaign.
Yeah,
I can use all the help I can get. Thank you and good night, everybody.
and that's Tony. And that's Tony for the number 4 California.us. And if you like, make a donation, keep them coming, and we'll keep moving you.
Thank you, Mike.